happen from there. Of course, there's always torture and solitary confinement. You know, one subject I don't talk about too much is the privacy concerns that I know Alex Jones has, and so many of his reporters and his guests talk about the privacy concerns. And I can understand this, I really do. And again, this all goes back to the money. Everything, the money is the driver. It's the root of all of our problems. It's the cause of all of our problems. People need money. They need money more than they need a conscience. They need money more than they need the Constitution. After all, neither the Constitution nor their conscience pay their rent. But money, that pays their rent. So they need money for their first survival. That's their physical survival. So, you know, the conscience and the Constitution play a second fiddle to the money. So who is really their God when it comes down to it? It is the money masters. So this is, again, a very, very powerful entity that's involved here. Money is a satanic entity because of the power it has to control people and their minds, their moods, everything. This is the way they can sit around and be big fat leeches. They don't contribute anything to society. They just steal because they can, because they've got, again, the law enforcement and the military behind them, because they're all scared. They're bought and sold into the system too, as we understand. We all conform. I mean, I'm not sitting here being a hypocrite telling you that I am not scared too of these tyrants, these money masters, these illegitimate criminal overlords, this gaggle of merciless, murderous thugs. Okay, that's what they are. That's that spirit of Satan. This is the spirit of social Darwinianism, where they've got to depopulate the earth, but they don't offer, you know, it's like they're so altruistic, they want to save the planet from overpopulation and climate change. But, you know, so you'd think, well, if they were so altruistic, why don't they just kill themselves? But no, it's not about that. They think that they're so smart that they deserve the world. This is a very satanic precept. So it doesn't matter how they gain control over the earth. That's none of your business. The point is they want to stay in control, and they want to be the bosses and dictators and just keep manipulating humanity. But they too know they can't get away with this thing in perpetuity. They know eventually knowledge reaches a threshold. It reaches a critical mass where there's so many people that are enlightened, that are in tune with the spirit of truth. Simply, it's just understanding that there are moral absolutes, ethical absolutes. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Truth is truth, and lies are lies. So, you know, good is stronger than bad, and, you know, Newton's law, so this all gets involved in science. This is not just wishful thinking. But Newton's law that, you know, for every action there's an equal opposite reaction. So we've had so much evil being the rule of the day that eventually this paradigm will shift. It can't help but shift. But the establishmentarians who love things the way they are, they love the status quo. They love the trajectory, the direction we're on with the continued perpetual debasement of our currency, and our nut just keeps getting harder and harder to crack. Our financial burden just keeps increasing as the worth of our currency is diminished day by intent. This is the way they steal our wealth, you understand? This is the way it works. And when we understand this thing, eventually enough people are going to say, you know what, I've been on the other side of this equation, but I'm done because I see where this thing leads. And I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be named among the oppressors, because that's what we're breaking down into. There's only two categories. You can choose in this, what they call capitalism. It's just a perverted form of fascism, an offbeat, proxy of fascism is what it really is, because the government now is involved in manipulating markets, price fixing, which causes the diminishment of the worth of your currency debasement through cost of living inflation, like a scale. Cost of living goes up, worth of your currency goes down. So there's so many people that are going to say, you know what, I repent. You know what, I don't want to be that person anymore. I would rather be named among the oppressed out there than the oppressors. that makes me feel more peace inside. Even if I don't believe in God, if I'm agnostic about the whole thing, I recommend everybody believe in God. It's like free insurance. It's just, you know what? It doesn't cost you a penny. And it's just saying, look, does this thing make sense or doesn't it? Is this a continuum, this thing called eternity? Should I work for the good things that are promised because, you're true and you can't lie? Yes, I recommend everybody does it. But understand also beyond that, God built in fail-safes into the human being. And one of those fail-safes is our conscience. And when we offend our own conscience, we are stricken with guilt. And guilt is a bad feeling. So we're looking for a way out. On one hand, we want to be convicted of the guilt so we can grow as human beings, so we can be better people, be more ethical, be more idealistic, be better egalitarians, equalitarians, and believing in one family of man and that we're all equals and there's no sense and purpose, there's no benefit in believing you're better than anybody else. It won't ever bring you happiness. So this is a very logical precept. It's not about religion at all. This is something to scoff at, as did Jesus. They tried to pigeonhole Jesus thousands of years ago, saying, "Oh, you're a religious teacher," and all this. And, he rejected, he scoffed and said, "Look, what is religion?" He said, it's to look after widows and orphans in their distress. So, religion is not inherently bad, but the people that are playing God in this world, they usurp things like that because actually devout people are pious people. They're humble people filled with humility. They're the last people to, for instance, want to use violence offensively or wanted to oppress anybody. So the idea that somebody is religious being a bad thing is an example of how far back the usurpation of, everything that's good has been. It goes way back. And so, right today is wrong, right is wrong, good is bad, bad is good, everything's topsy-turvy. We got that Babylon effect, through the educational system and teaching people, well, you're the smartest ones, and now you learn the earth is overpopulated, now you learn that humans are wrecking the earth, and, now you learn that Darwin was right, and that this is survival of the strongest, and, natural selection, all this nonsense. So their heads are filled with so much trash. And what's worse, if their professors and stuff actually believe the stuff they're spewing, you see, what happens is the professor respected, admired somebody, looked up to somebody, and he believed a lie. And the man that did that, somewhere along this chain, it's a chain of belief. So people believe there is somebody that's a deceiver. They know right from wrong. They know truth from fiction. But they are evil. They are the ones, that's why they're at the very top of the economic food chain, the money masters, the Illuminati class, the New World Order globalists, these insider groups that are really a bunch of pervs. When we find out about the Bohemian Grove, it's really childish, satanic, spoiled, bratty, murderous nonsense. I mean, there's not enough pejorative, derogatory terms you can use to describe the people at the very top. But it shows the power of a lie. You understand? Especially if you heard the lie from somebody you trust. Because, it really is something that you embrace now and you cultivate it even further. You expand on that. You say, well, I'm going to take that. I believe the earth is overpopulated too. I mean, look at how many people there are downtown looking for parking spots and this issue and that issue. So yes, I've always felt that somewhere inside that there's, never thinking that, well, let's question city planning. Let's say, well, what is the problem? Now, what is the solution? Not enough parking? Well, then the city, the government, who is supposed to be serving we the people, it's supposed to be we the people, needs to provide more parking areas for us, whether it be parking garages, whatever the case may be. There needs to be plenty of free public parking. So there's problem solved right there. This is all part of building housing. You say, well, all these people want 1 or 2 cars each, so let's make sure we've got plenty extra and above. They're going to have guests visiting. So There's never a shortage of parking. That will never be an issue. So in other words, these people that are spewing the lie, they play on our own misunderstanding of why the problems persist. You know, we more of us have to really ask ourselves, well, wait a minute, if this particular problem went away, somebody would be out of a job. You understand how this works? And again, what do people need more than their conscience and more than the Constitution? They need money, because the money pays their rent. So the conscience is subdued, it's subjugated under the need for money, because if you don't have money, you don't get to survive. So you see how social Darwinism and the monetary-based unreality are entwined. And these people want to keep it that way, but they're reaching their end now. And I know I probably repeat myself over and over in my videos, but you know, their end is near. We are reaching finally, but it's a scary time too. You don't see me beaming with joy yet, knowing that their end is nigh. It's very near, because you know, knowledge on the earth is reaching a critical mass, and we're talking about knowledge that cuts through the lies and deceit. When people figure out, hey, wait a minute, you know, all you rulers, you illegitimate gaggle of fascist thugs, you know, you at the Chamber of Communists that think it's better that people pay for parking spaces than have them for free. We know we got your number. We get it. But tell me this, okay? Riddle me this, is why we can't solve a problem that's highly solvable. Why can't we solve homelessness by providing sufficient affordable housing? Because that's what it all comes down to. If Section 8 didn't have such a burden, they wouldn't constantly need more tax dollars to solve the problem. You understand? So what's going on here with this social Darwinism being tied into our economic system? They're justifying people dying out in the cold because it's about money. Who's going to pay for it? Well, it's your fault. You're not paying enough. That landlord needs a bigger government subsidy. So they're exacerbating the problems. Nobody wants to debate this issue logically. Okay, these politicians, look, as far as I'm concerned, almost all of them are sold out. Because why? Again, they're scared. The Constitution doesn't pay their rent. Their conscience doesn't pay their rent. What pays their rent is money. So they need money. And if their job revolves around the problem, let's take one problem that's anybody, you know, in society knows we have a problem with crime. Now let's ask ourselves, why are these people deranged? Is that why they're committing crimes? Or are they desperate? And it is my strong contention that the reason that most of these people commit crime, and not only my contention, if you look at the facts, look at the statistics, the motivation, what is the incentive for the criminals? They need what? Money. So out the window goes the conscience and the Constitution, doing right, the golden rule, all this stuff. And in comes desperation. And what they're desperate for is the God of this world, which is the money. Because, you know, I'd be willing to live in a world of money. I mean, if people want to play, to me, it's another trinket. Look, it's a pretty artistic piece of paper. Yeah, that's cool. I collect money. It's pretty. It's artwork. But beyond that, it can't work, because obviously, you know, it's axiomatically true, self-evident, you know, that you can say through empirical observations that we cannot. There's too many people who cannot control themselves. It's like a drug that people can't control themselves around. They need more and more. They're insatiable. Their hearts are filled with avarice and greed, and there's no number high enough. They're not happy being millionaires anymore. Now they got to be a billionaire. So they're hoarding wealth and more wealth, and there's supposed to be stuff backing that up, assets that are really valuable backing that up, but there isn't anymore. So if people had to go out and spend all their cash money in one form or another, whatever that represented, gold or silver or digital money, whatever that money, oil, you know, fungible assets, stocks, bonds, there wouldn't be enough stuff to go around. You understand? So it's a charade, it's a game, it's a facade, it's a joke.